Alright everybody, today we talked about using powers of 10 to help us solve some multiplication problems, and we talked about how it's more efficient to use powers of 10, but some of you were still confused, so I figured I would go over some important details and then give you some examples to practice with. So let me see here where my mouse is. Don't see it. Oh, there it is. All right, there we go. Here we go. All right, so first off, an exponent is a number that tells how many times to use the base number as a factor. So basically what that means is that an exponent tells you how many times to multiply the base number. We talked today about what a base number is, and so if you look down at the second sentence here, it says, which number is the exponent in 10 to the 5th power? Well, we talked about that 5 right there. It has a power, it's 10 to the power of 5. That 5 is our exponent. It tells us that we're going to multiply 10 5 times. A lot of you wanted to multiply 10 times 5, which would be 50, but in this case, when we use exponents is basically repeated multiplication. So as we go through this problem, we will start to practice multiplying those, but this is just some simple vocabulary. So let's look at the next one. When a number is written with an exponent, the base is the number that is used as the factor. So this base is 10 in this problem right here. So 10 is the base number, and then 5 is the exponent. Okay, it has the power. It tells us how many times we're going to multiply that base number. So in the expression 2 times 10 to the 4th, which base is used as a factor 4 times? Well, that's a good question. What we're going to do is we're going to take this 2 and we're going to multiply it by this 1. And this is how I taught you in class. And we know that 2 times 1 is 2, right? And then I told you a little trick that this exponent tells me how many zeros there are behind my number. So there's 4. So I know that my product of 2 times 10 to the 4th is 20,000, but let's understand why. So 10 to the 4th is 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. So 10 times 10 we know is, I don't have any room notes there, so I'm going to write right here, is 100. 100 times 10 times 10, which is 100, would give us 100 times 100. 100 times 100 is 10,000. So with that, now we can simply multiply this 2. This 2 times 10, we know 10 times 2 is 20, if we remember back to our facts. So that's just going to take the place of 10, so it gives us 20,000. So it says in the expression which base is used as a factor 4 times. Well, it's going to be 10. And then after you use the base as a factor, then you can multiply that single digit right here into your product of your power of 10. When we write, I'm going to move on. So when we write 1,000 as a power of 10, we find that the value of the exponent by counting the number of zeros in 1,000. This is true. So if 1,000 was written with a power of 10, it's equal to, all we've got to do is count these zeros, 1, 2, 3. So we know that 1,000 is equal to 10 to the power of 3, or 10 to the 3rd, however you would like to say that. And then lastly, 10,000 is written as a power of 10, which is equal to what? We want to put it with an exponent. So we know 10 is our base number. So all we have to do is we have to count these zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we know that this is 10 to the 4th power. Okay? Feel free to pause the video anytime and go back and rewatch. I'm a little scatterbrained because it's been a long day, but hopefully this is making sense for you. So let's look at this example. It says, one bee colony on Mr. Gordon's farm contains 60,000 bees. Complete the pattern to write 60,000 using an exponent. Okay, so this says 6 times 10 to the first, which equals 6 times 10, because this exponent of 1 tells us that we're only multiplying 10 one time. Well, 10 times 1 is 10, so 6 times 10 would be 60. Okay, it set us up the next problem as well. 6 times 10 to the second power. Okay, well this really means 6 times 10 times 10. Well, we know 10 times 10 is 100. So 6 times 100, 6 times 1 is 6. All we've got to do is bring down and place those zeros behind. It's 600. So here we've got to do a little bit of work. 6 times 10 to the third, or 6 times 10 to the power of 3. So this really means 6 times 10 times 10 times 10. Well, I know that 10 times 10 is 100, and 100 times 10, if you can guess, this is a good time to pause to see what you think. 10 times 100 is, or 100 times 10 is 1,000. So now all I have to do is bring this 6 over. 6 times 1 is 6, and I know that I'm just going to place those zeros behind, bringing it to 6,000. The last one, 6 times 10 to the fourth. Okay, so we're going to break this down, 10 to the fourth. This 4 tells me how many times 10 is being multiplied. So 6 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. I know 10 times 10 is 100. I know another 10 times 10 is 100. I'm writing it right here because I need this space. And then 100 times 100 is what? See if you can pause the video and tell me. It should be 10,000. And it is. But when I attach this 6 to it, 6 times 10,000 will give us 60,000. So 60,000 written with an exponent is 6 times 10 to the fourth. And all you do is multiply. Okay. Now, yeah, okay. Let's keep going. I really hope I'm making sense. I'm sorry, y'all. All right, so this one says, write 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 with an exponent. Well, hint, hint, wink, wink. All you got to do is count how many 10s there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5. So I know that the exponent with a base of 10 is going to have the power of 5 because there are 5, and 10 is being multiplied 5 times. If I wanted to find out what the answer is to 10 to the fifth, all I have to do is I keep this 1 right here because nothing is being multiplied for the 10, and then I place, notice I said place, not add, because we're not adding, then you place 5 zeros, which will give us 100,000. So 10 to the fifth is equal to 100,000. Okay? So now I want you to try. I'm going to give you a couple problems here that I want you to solve if you feel the need to do so. So you can pause the video and then solve them, and then hopefully I'll have the answers for you. Okay? So the first one I want you to try is 3 times 10 to the third. What would that be? Right, a little crooked, sorry. The second one is 7 times 10 to the second. The third problem I want you to try is 5 times 10 to the sixth. And then the last one I want you to try is I want you to complete the pattern. Okay, so pause the video, attempt these, and then check your answers to see if they're right. Okay, so by now the video should be unpaused if you did what you're supposed to, and then you can fill in the blanks or check your answer, excuse me. So 3 times 10 to the third. Okay, well all I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 3 times 1 and I'm going to keep it 3. And then I see that there's an exponent of 3, which tells me to place 3 zeros behind my 3, which gives me 3,000. That's the simple, easy way to do it, like I've told you. But you need to understand that you can't just put 3 zeros behind the base number. Okay, you have to be able to break it down, because 10 to the third is really 10 times 10 times 10. 100 times 10 would be 1,000. So then 3 times 1,000 would give you 3,000. Okay, let's try this one. 7 times 10 to the second. So this is 10 times 10. So I know this is 100. So I have 7 times 100. Well, 7 times 1 is easy. It's 7. And then I place those 2 zeros behind. Number 3, 5 times 10 to the 6. All right, this one's going to be a big number. All right, so this is really 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. And I know, based off of all of these zeros and the exponent and multiplying, that I have 100 times 100 times 100, which gives us 1,000,000. And when I multiply 5 times 1,000,000, I get 5,000,000. So I hope you got that right. Okay, now complete this pattern. 6 times 10 to the first we know is 60, because this is simply 10 when we have a power of 1. 6 times 10 to the second, we know that 10 to the second power equals 100. So 6 times 100 is 600. 6 times 10 to the third, that 3 tells me that there's going to be 3 zeros behind, or I can say 10 times 10 times 10, which is 1,000. 6 times 1,000 is 6,000. And then 6 times 10 to the fourth will be 60,000. And we talked about today how many times bigger, how much larger is 60 to 600? Well, it's 10 times larger, because we multiply by 10 to get to 100. If we wanted to get from 600 to 6,000, we'd multiply by 10. Once again, 6,000 to 60,000, we'd multiply by 10. So that's why it's called the powers of 10. If you have any questions, just let me know.